Welcome to Why Don't We Dress for Dinner Anymore with sophisticated senior style icon Teddy Crockman
and Melissa Pierce, natural redhead and consultant to many tech firms.
Oh.
I don't know what to say anymore. What are we going to talk about today, Melissa? What's the topic for the day?
So the topic for today is, why is the government controlling what we are wearing? What the hell?
Well,
it's called What the Hell, government.
It's called What the Hell Are We Wearing? That's the name. This will be the name of this episode. Well, we can start where we always do, Melissa, with Trump.
Oh, good Lord. I would like to stop starting with Trump or any of his cabinet.
Well, here's the thing. If you're talking about how the government is controlling how we dress, think about it. The government, Trump, has just declared when he became president that there are only two sexes, and that's male or female, and nothing else is acknowledged. And you are to be the sex that you were assigned at birth. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's it.
You have to be the gender. And not only that, but you have to be outwardly representative of that gender, which means
absolutely
men can't wear dresses anymore, or people who identify as women who are now just men or what. So they're really policing what everyone is wearing. They're saying you have gone too far outside the norm.
Right.
And I do want to touch on that, because that really is about policing how someone outwardly presents.
Right.
They are basically policing what we are wearing.
And when you police what people are wearing, what do we always say? That clothing is often an expression of who you are to other people. It's the first communication that you have when you walk into a room. So they don't want people who are wearing hands-off buttons or, Obama 2028 hats or whatever, or tattoos, body art that might be misconstrued as gang symbols, because you'll be deported to a gulag in El Salvador. So people are very aware now of how they present in public. Is it somehow going to be misconstrued? We've even heard recently on the news that Trump was caught on a live mic where he was telling somebody that, yes, he wouldn't have a problem taking U.S. citizens who he feels are against his administration and jailing them in offshore, lands.
And we as colonizers have a storied history in asserting our own whatever values on on the two genders, right? So we have this storied history of saying, you know what? Like, the only way that we can control people is by putting them in these two lanes.
Yes.
And if you are outside of those two lanes,
we're going to get rid of you.
Then you're
non-existent.
You're dangerous, is what it is. If you exist outside the cultural norms, you are dangerous, and they don't understand it. That is rebellion that they want to quash.
Right. Any challenge.
So what we're seeing is this like quashing of transgender people, because they are outside whatever that norm is that an authoritarian government wants to control.
According to Donald Trump, transgender people do not exist.
Right. And
you can't, did they change the passport thing? We were talking about that earlier.
You know what? They changed so many things, but I think right now there is a stay, at least in some.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's just, if you've changed your sex in your national documents, or if you're trying to do non-binary, which they don't love either, which is so funny. I think we talked about this briefly in another podcast, but I had recently learned that libertarians love that non-binary, I'm not claiming male or female because my gender is none of your business. So it's really non-binary people and libertarians.
Yeah, libertarians are really very anti-government. They want absolutely. They're like on one end of the spectrum where they don't want any government intrusion in life whatsoever. They're kind of the pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of gang. There's no social. As far as I know, with libertarianism, there's really no social obligation or responsibility. It's the individual just taking care of themselves and good luck with that kind
right.
of
And that's the kind of thing.
You
So
know.
it's funny when there's a crossover there. It's like the privacy industry and libertarians kind of have the same. Anyway, so not about libertarians, but about policing the way people dress. Even think about what Zelensky was wearing, a t-shirt and not a suit, and they were upset about that.
Which was interesting because if you looked at the Pope's funeral recently, everybody was wearing black. Even Volodymyr Zelensky came in a black suit. What was Donald Trump wearing? His bright royal blue suit with a bright royal blue tie.
And why?
To the Pope's funeral.
Because he's a narcissist and, but yes, he's wearing that. And did you notice that so there are several pictures of this. Yeah. And some of them have now been doctored to show other people in bright blue suits.
Yes, I saw that.
And I'm just like, what?
There were people wearing any bright blue suits there but Trump. And we all know that.
Like, do I want to police what Trump wears? Only in as much as I want to do it gleefully to him to do the same thing that he is doing to the rest of us, which is, he is asking us to stay in two lanes because his tiny pea brain cannot even consider that someone might dress in a certain way, or have a particular tattoo or whatever it is. I'm not saying that everybody who has a MI-13 or whatever it is tattoo is not a gangster, but at the same time, due process.
Hey, kids do stupid shit when they're young, get tattoos that say all kinds of things. It doesn't automatically mean that they're, a drug lord or a gangster or whatever.
Well, even if it does automatically mean that, I mean, innocent until proven guilty.
Well, due process.
It's a whole
thing. A trial. Yeah. Even if you're not a citizen, everybody has due process in this country, which Trump is trying to totally eradicate. I was reading something the other day about the origin of the word. We use fashion statement. You make a fashion statement
about this,
and really, it went back as far as when you think of Joan of Arc. In what was Joan of Arc, 15th century or something like that. And she was wearing the male armor and, the what was considered the soldiers or the fighting kind of, which women didn't wear. So a fashion statement, the word fashion statement really came out of rebellion, where you were making a political statement, therefore your statement was made through fashion, therefore fashion statement. Your political statement was being made by what you wear. And like we talked about with Professor Przybyszewski. I'm sorry, Professor. I can't pronounce your name. Say it again.
Przybyszewski,
yes. I'm sorry, Professor. You will be seeing this episode
3 weeks.
I believe it will actually air before the professors. No, you're right. It'll be after. So you're going to see the professor. She's great. She's a professor at Notre Dame. She wrote a book called The Art of Dress, and she's extremely interesting and fascinating with the history of fashion. And we just got done interviewing her, and therefore it's kind of, gotten our juices flowing as far as revolutionary wear, fashion statement, which again really was another way of saying my clothes are my political statement. I'm going against the grain. I'm not wearing what the establishment wants me to wear. I'm wearing anti-establishment clothing because I'm against whatever is going on in the government. So a way to express your anti-establishment against the government is by what you wear. Even if you go to see people at rallies, they're wearing, anti-MAGA hats or Obama 2028 or hands-off pins.
Recall the pink pussy hat. Remember the pink from the Women's March before
that was for when they overruled Roe v. Wade. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that was when Trump was elected. Before that was overruled.
Yes.
That was, and then we knew
it was in Biden's administration.
We knew what was coming.
Yeah.
That was
and now we got it.
Obama.
Yeah, and we got it. So go on.
Oh, so we interviewed her. She talked about how there used to be a Department of Home Economics, and they talked about basically all the kitchen sciences and the science of home economy, like how to make clothes, how to do all these things, and making sure that that the people who wanted to learn these things could learn them, and the government had these resources for
But
them.
I thought it was also interesting, and I didn't know this, but it was a place for women, professional women who had an interest in anything kind of scientific. And when you think of home economics, you think of pattern making as kind of engineering,
Right.
sewing is a form of engineering.
They were welcome.
Cooking is actually a form of chemistry.
Correct.
When you think about that. So that was the one area, the home sciences, where women were encouraged to develop a career. They weren't welcomed into, other areas of science like nuclear energy or computers or other things.
Well,
they were stuck in that little box of home economics, where at least they felt they were contributing to society by helping women to dress economically in an egalitarian kind of way, yet be able to enjoy themselves and celebrate the art of dressing. That all kind of went away, like she said, in the 50s when we started with the Cold War, and they wanted to move all the resources into the sciences that were looking at better ways to develop weapons, bigger technologies, where women weren't welcome anymore. And therefore, these dress doctors that she spoke about kind of faded into the sunset. They were reaching retirement age anyway. And that kind of helped to collapse a little bit about the rules of dress and the kind of ways that you should look at dressing for certain occasions, occasion dressing.
Right, but it also collapsed all of kitchen science and food science and all of those things. And those things only came back later, for the Department of Agriculture.
Right.
But I found it really interesting that we used to have a Department of Government that was all about dress and the home, and just basically how to keep a home up or how to keep yourself up and care for humans.
Right.
And we went away with that, but now we're coming back to the Trump administration, who have these ideals of what is right.
The happy homemaker.
The happy homemaker, the trad wife. And you'll note, you were talking about this before we started. You were like, have you noticed that all of the women around Trump all follow a particular aesthetic?
Look.
Their unwritten rule of how to look like a woman who buys into this is what it was: a big hair,
tons of hair, extensions, the big eyelashes, the very sexy kind of, cinched in skirts and 3-inch, 4-inch stilettos.
It's basically that over sexualized.
All the women around him, if you notice, like that Christy Nome, this one woman made a comment the other day. She says, I know she's got like 600 pounds of hair on, like that's her real hair, but it's that over feminized, a woman can't have a short, cute hairstyle or medium length hair. She's got to have 10 pounds of long, flowing Rapunzel hair.
Here's what I'm wondering, because they can't tell the difference between a MAGA woman and a drag queen. They had to get rid of the drag queen. Is that what happened?
Right. So the MAGA women are the new drag queens.
And that's terrifying, because one is a dissident, right? Am I using that word right? One is a dissident. They're saying, you know what, the norm is not what I want.
Yeah.
And one is buying in. And because they're so pea-brained, they just can't tell.
Right.
Well, also, I mean, the trans population, I think that's 1% of the population. So really, it's like 0.01%. Really small population. So it's easy to pick on people that are outside the norm.
Well, you know what I always say? That's a technique called look over there. You take something that's a very small population and you pick on them, because the bigger things like the economy and the tariffs, where they said the average family is going to be spending about $5,000 a year more on the same stuff you're buying now. Next year, it's going to cost you $5,000 more, and your shopping cart's going to look the same.
Well, surprise, friends, I'm not buying anything.
So they don't want you to look over there, because Trump's already claiming that the price of eggs have dropped 87%. I don't know about you, but the eggs that we're buying haven't dropped any 87%. So he ran on the economy and the border, and he's doing shit on both of them. So what does he do? He picks on transgender people. He picks on people who have the wrong tattoos. He picks on people who have the wrong skin color, according to him. He picks on these issues that are really shouldn't be issues, and he makes them issues so you won't look at the bigger picture that's affecting the whole population, which is the economy and immigration, which we need to create a robust economy. Because this was an interesting thing that I heard on TV today. Were you aware that 47% of businesses that are currently in the United States were created by immigrants? And I'm not talking about immigrants from three generations ago. I'm talking about immigrants who are either immigrants who are naturalized citizens right now, or their children, which is first generation Americans.
Right.
47% of our businesses are fueled by immigrants.
Right. And that's, every convenience store in my neighborhood is owned by someone who immigrated to this country first generation.
Right.
And that's the absolute truth. All of these businesses.
J.B. Pritzker, our governor, talked to the other day on TV. He comes from a Ukrainian Jewish family.
That's right.
That ran from Ukraine because the Jews in Ukraine were being decimated and all kinds of horrible things were happening to them. His grandfather came to the United States without a penny in his pocket. And they have literally a family of billionaires off of the Marriott hotel chain that was started by an immigrant from Ukraine, a Jewish immigrant from Ukraine. So
wait,
J.B. Pritzker's family owns all the Marriott hotels. They also own
which
Hammond,
one is
Oregon.
owned by the Mormons? I thought that was the Marriott.
Well, maybe the Mormons bought it, but J.B. Pritzker's fortune came from the Marriott fortune. They own the Marriott hotels, and they also, my father-in-law was a tool and die maker who worked at Hammond, Oregon his whole life. And the Pritzkers also owned Hammond, Oregon, which at that point, everybody who played an organ played a Hammond organ. I mean, they were basically a monopoly on that. So you see the Pritzker name everywhere in Chicago because they were a very well-to-do family, but they came from nothing. And again, it was an immigrant family that came from nothing. So if we're going to parse out the way people look, and that's going to be, we're deporting this one because they don't look right. We're deporting that one because they're transgender. We're deporting this one because they're gay. We're deporting this one because they just, it's going to get to the point where if you insult Trump, you're going to be deported. Or if you have, like a screw Trump t-shirt on and they catch you on the street. They're going to throw you in the black van and you'll never be seen again.
Listen, if you're going to be thrown in a black van for wearing an anti-Trump shirt, forget the word screw, just say fuck.
Fuck Trump.
Yeah.
Fuck. If you do that, you'll be picked up in the black van. And they call that rendition. When the government kidnaps you without due process, they just kidnap you and they send you away to some gulag somewhere where you can't have, like in El Salvador.
Actually,
I think, called a rendition.
Okay, I think we should be very clear that when someone has disappeared, what we mean is that they were kidnapped.
Right, they're kidnapped.
And when someone is sent to a detention center or a gulag without
due process,
without a court, like without a judge, without a hearing, that they are being sent to a concentration camp.
Yeah.
And I think you need to be really clear that that is what's happening. Yeah. You're not going through due process. And I love that we're saying due process, but for the idiots out there, I want to tell you, it is
a court.
It is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, which we all learned in grade school. We all learned freedom of speech in grade school. We all learned that if you were born here, you get to stay here in grade school. And those are the three things that Trump is really, like, he's already run over it. Right. We are in a constitutional crisis. And he won't ever even let us, like, wear what we want to wear. I can no longer, like, put on a little short wig and dress like a man and run around town.
Right. If you want to be masculine in the way you wear, which I love a good masculine look. I love a good necktie and stuff like that.
I used to dress up as my dad. So I look great as my dad.
I couldn't dress up like my dad. My dad owned a snack shop, and you know what he wore every day? A white shirt and checkered houndstooth pants.
That's snazzy. That's snazzy.
But he was a good cook, I have to say that. But so that's our theme for the day is, please, everyone, just get out there, speak your mind, get to the protests, wear your revolution wear. We're going to be talking more and more about revolution wear and what that means and what that entails, because it's just too important. Like Melissa said, we're in a constitutional crisis where people are being literally kidnapped by the government merely by the way they look. And
or what they say.
We're not free to express ourselves in our fashion or in our words. We are lost. We have lost our democracy. So this is a call to action. Trump's going to come get me now because I'm calling people to action. This is a call to action. Dress however you want. Wear whatever you think makes other people aware of your political stance, because communicating with people that you're not even talking to is very important. So do whatever you can to demonstrate that you are not for this particular format of government. Feel free to wear anything you want. But if you can, dress up really nicely, because we like it.
Right. It
is nicely. You don't have to dress like Melania Trump. We're not telling you to dress like Melania or the other ones that are out there. But if you can dress nicely, but wear your protest wear, we're all for you. We're there. We'd like to hear your comments down below if you can. We'd like to hear what you think as far as what are you going to wear for your protests? What are you going to wear to let other people know how you sit politically? Because we all have to get activated, or in a couple of years, we will not have the freedom to have this podcast and to say the goofy things that Melissa and I do say, because we say what's ever on our mind. And that's what we should be able to do.
You know what's on my mind?
What?
Why don't we dress for dinner anymore?
I don't know, Melissa. Why don't we? Thanks for listening to Why Don't We Dress for Dinner Anymore? Please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. That really helps people find us.
And if you're a brand and want to sponsor the show, please email us at whydon'twedressfordinner@gmail.com, also linked in the show notes.
And if you're a fabulous person and you want to support our work, join us on our Patreon or take us out to dinner sometime and we'll be sure to dress up for you.